Greetings, everybody. I want to welcome you here to Prog Monster. My name is Murph. I am the host of this show. This is a show dedicated to progressive rock and other forms of rock music, and tonight we're doing one of those other forms of rock music. So we're here for the Monday night's look back at a classic rock album, which will feature this album, Jailbreak by Thin Lizzy, released on March the 26th, 1976, recorded at Rampart Studio in London, roughly 35 minutes in length, on the Vertigo record label, and produced by John Elcock. So appearing in Thin Lizzy at the time is Phil Lynott, bass and lead vocals, Scott Gorham on lead and rhythm guitars, Brian Robertson, or Robbie if you prefer, Robbo is what they used to call him actually, lead and rhythm guitars, and Brian Downey on drums and percussion, with Tim Hinckley actually doing some keyboards on the song Running Back. So this is a strong album. On this particular track, they have, on this particular version of the album, they have the two songs, Angel from the Coast and Running Back, are kind of pushed together. They don't have them as separate things, but they are actually as separate songs. At least they were originally anyways. Okay, so basically this, for me, I made some notes on the songs, but I'll just put them aside here for a second. So just talk about the album in general first. So the album it's got, as most Thin Lizzy albums do, this one no exception to the rule, very strong riffing, lots of really catchy riffs. This is one of the better riffing bands. I kind of put them up there with AC/DC and Blue Oyster Cult as some of the better bands that come with those great riffs. Yeah, I like their riffs a lot. You've got those nice duet type lead guitar solos done by both Robbo and Gorham. This is something that goes back to, of course, back to the Wishbone Ash days, but these guys do it just as well too. They're really good. Phil Lynott's vocals are among my favorites. He's different than a lot of lead singers that you get. Usually most of them are high pitched, or they screech, or they they're loud, but there's a few guys that have that more of that deep inflection in their voice, and he's one of them. I think his voice is very unique. I don't think you could mix him up with just about anybody else. Sometimes I hear a little of that Jimi Hendrix part to his voice as well, but I never get those two mixed up. They're quite different. Then of course the lyrics are always quirky with this band. A lot of different kind of. I kind of think of this band as more of like a storytelling band when they're doing the lyrics, instead of just having like a chorus with a couple of set 1 and set 2 and set 3 and then a chorus. They're not really like that. They do have some of that in their music, but basically he's kind of telling a story as he goes along, so you follow it. That's what draws me in about them. That's one of the big things that draws me in about them. So they have 9 tracks on this. Just going to go over them a little bit, just in case I missed anything in my general descriptions, which is often the case. So you've got Jailbreak, which is the opening track, also the title track of the album. As you can see, it's not a bad looking cover too. I think it's almost like a TV set here. They're almost plugged into a TV set. Am I wrong about that? But that's what it looks like. It's pre-internet, so we know it's not a screen. Anyways, Jailbreak is the opening track, which is the title track. This is a well-known classic riff by them. Really catchy as hell. Lynott's vocals are unique and strong on this particular, very beefy, I think. The solo and the riff and the siren, all giving it that really kind of heavy sound to it, and it has a ton of energy. It's probably my favorite track on the album, even though I do like some of the others. Like there's quite a few here that get high 7s and 7.5. This one I gave a 9 though, because I like that so much. Angel from the Coast, another good catchy riff. They lump it together here with Running Back. I think of them as two different tracks. Catchy riff, a little bit of that, what do they call that? Secured, I can't think of what it's called. Anyways, vocals are really forward on this track as well. Solos are strong. The lyrics, they're kind of interesting too. I like them quite a bit. And the Running Back, which is the song that they lumped together with it, this one has the keyboard part on it from Tim Hinckley. Pretty interesting. It's the only one, I think, on the album with any kind of keyboard at all. Really mellow track, to be honest with you. Phil Lynott, very clear sounding. His voice is pretty clear sounding throughout the entire album. No problem hearing what he has to say. The solo is strong. Lyrics are prominent again. The lyrics are prominent on almost every song. Romeo and the Lonely Girl. This one is kind of a quirky track. Some parts are a bit silly. Romeo, like the rhyming is a little bit silly on parts of it, but it's not a bad song. That I like the riffing a lot again. The solo is really good, especially because it's two of them doing solos at the same time. Excellent. Warriors is the last track on the first side, or part A, or part 1 if you prefer. This is kind of a bit of a picking riff. They're kind of moving up and down the scales here a bit on this, but it's a harder riff too. The vocals deep and unique again, and the solo is very up front, hard solo, I think. Then you flip to the album, you get side 2 here. The Boys Are Back in Town. I don't really need to say too much about that. Most people know this song. It's very iconic. The solo is kind of iconic. The vocals are iconic. It's a big sound. But it's probably overkilled. It's the one track on here. Jailbait probably overkilled as well. Jailbreak. Probably both overkilled as well. Fight or Fall. This is a little bit more of a mellow song, a little bit poppy feel to it in some parts. It does build up a little bit. Vocals are more subdued in this track. It's kind of trying to be down, and the solo's a little bit more mellow as well. Cowboy Song. This is a song I actually like quite a bit. It's not a song I've heard a lot because you don't get a lot of this on the radio or on the internet or anything like that. It's not a song that they play a lot, that you hear a lot. So it's kind of more newer to me in a lot of ways. It's got a kind of a picking guitar part too. The riff and the vocals are heavier and catchy. And the solo, of course, is really good and catchy as well. And then you have the final track, which is probably my second favorite track. May end up as my favorite track at some point. Real heavy riff. Story is catchy. Vocals are powerful here. Second half of a double. In the second half, they have this kind of double guitar solo and riff kind of going between the both of them. Real catchy. And it ends with this kind of distorted riff in the song. So overall, I find this to be a strong album for them. Many people may list this as the best album by them. I'm not really sure if I do or not. It's still getting a full playlist for me. Many of these songs, like half a dozen of them, probably about 5 or 6 of them I'd heard before, so I was pretty familiar with the album, but there's a few on here like the Cowboy Song and Fight or Fall. Those are songs I hadn't heard before, but Emerald and Boys Are Back in Town and Warriors and Romeo and the Lonely Boy and Running Back and Jailbait, of course, Jailbreak. I keep wanting to say that. I've heard them all before. Jailbreak is probably a song that has been in my Thin Lizzy repertoire for decades and eons. So anyways, really solid album. Highly recommended if you haven't had a chance to listen to it, or maybe Thin Lizzy's not a band that you ever followed much before. There's bands like that for me that, everybody knows them, but I never really followed them, but this was not one of those bands. This is a strong band for me. It's been in my top 30 for a long time. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Look Back at a Classic Rock Album. If you did, please hit the like and subscribe. It's much appreciated. Any comments you want to make about Thin Lizzy or the album or Phil Lynott or anybody in the band or anything I've said, you can put those in the comment section below and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of the context. And we'll be back next Monday night with another look back at a classic rock album. I am still continuing my work. This Sunday we'll have the second episode of the Kiss The Originals series, mini-series that I'm running. And the other series started this morning. If you haven't got a chance to watch that, go back and watch that. It's a kind of a mini-series on both Yes and Genesis and their commonality between the two of them and some of the differences and stuff like that. I've done 6 different topics over the course of the 6 series episode and added an album from each group for each of these so that there's a little bit of a comparison and a little bit on the topic. You'll see the topic this morning, of course, was when they discovered that what was the first album that they did that was kind of the Genesis and the Yes styles. So we did one of those this morning. So you can go back and watch that. And I will see you again soon. And we'll see you next Monday on Look Back at a Classic Rock Album. So have yourself a good evening. Take care.